Hello everyone, welcome to Challenge to Build and the continuation of the Gooseneck trailer hitch install on the 1959 Chevy Viking pickup truck. In today's video, I'm going to wrap up the installation on the hitch by installing the left and right hand side angle supports for the hitch frame, also installing the gussets on the front and the rear of the framework. And then the last thing that we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to finish modifying the hitch pin and the bracket assembly for locking in the hitch ball down in this area here. So what I'm going to do is get suited up, get my gear ready to go, fire up the welder, and get to work. I hope you enjoy the episode. Now it's time to challenge the build. So before I actually start with the welding process, what I wanted to do is finish the prep work for all the pieces. Over the last few days, I've spent some time and cut all of the gussets and cleaned up the gussets that I needed for the front and the back. Spent some time cutting the angle supports for the frame assembly. Now what I'm doing is I'm just finishing up the mount bracket for the hitch pin. What I'm going to do is get this cut up, bend up, clean them up, and then fire up the welder and get everything welded into position. In order for me to bend these brackets, this is 1/8 inch steel. In order for me to get a nice clean bend on the bracket, what I'm doing is just taking the angle grinder and cutting a score line in it. And then what I'm going to do is once I get this welded and tack welded into position, I'm going to weld the cut line again. Clean break on it. Go get my other bracket so I can match them up. Or on both of them. That one fits pretty good. Back. All right, I'm happy with how everything fits. Now what I'm going to do is get these cleaned up and then get ready to weld all the pieces in. I have 2 gussets in the front to weld in. I have 2 rear gussets to weld in, plus these side support bars. And then I also have to prep and install the D-rings that I'm going to use for the chains. So let me get these cleaned up, fire up the welder, and then get to installing these pieces. So as you can see, or maybe you can't see, or maybe you didn't notice, but things look quite a bit different in the bed from when I was welding and grinding on the gooseneck frame. For me, I'm still trying to find a balance between working in my garage, working on the truck, filming YouTube videos, TikTok videos, posting pictures on Instagram, Twitter, and all of the sorts. And since I've filmed these YouTube videos in a period of time, it's not just all one day, I felt like I needed to come out to the garage and just put the camera to the side and really just focus on getting some work done to my truck. And that is the result of what you see. You didn't necessarily miss anything as far as the gooseneck hitch install is concerned, but I wanted to get some progress made on the truck, so I came in and started messing around with my shock mounts. I got the rest of the bed bracing put in on the truck to sturdy up the bed, because I'm going to need to remove this to go on to the next step, which is going to be installing the hydraulics on the hinge, which is probably going to be next week's episode. So that is why there's a little bit of a change in the truck from what you just saw me welding in to what you see now. Also, I apologize. I'm a little congested today. My sinuses are acting up real bad. So I'm sorry if I, sound kind of nasally. So I apologize. But the last part of this install on the gooseneck is with the B&W kit. They give you a 5/8 hitch pin spring-loaded with a few mounts that I'm going to trim and fit on the mounts that we installed. Also, I had to cut and notch the 5/8 bar and bend it, so that way when you pull it back, it will clear this back cross member, only by a little bit, probably by like an inch or so. And once the wood and the steel goes down, it will still clearance for that. So what I'm going to do is go cut this bracket and then duplicate this bracket, which is kind of crooked in my line. I'm going to have to square that up and trim that up. Make a duplicate bracket, and then I have a trick little feature that I'm going to do to this bar that I will show you here in the next couple of minutes. So let me go cut this, and then we'll continue the install. Safety first. I cannot tell you how important or how nice it is to wear these little foam earplugs in the garage. When you're cutting on metal, anything really, it can get really loud. And if you get used to putting these in before you start anything, it really does help in the long run of keeping you safe and protecting your ears. So, as a kid, my mom always used to tell me safety first, and I was like, yeah, whatever, Mom. Now here I am, wishing that I listened to her a little bit more often, right? Oh well, now that I'm a parent, everything goes full circle. So, thanks, Mom. I love you. You too, Dad. Thanks, Dad. And here I am cutting with one glove on. Woo-hoo! I'm losing it. I'm losing it. gonna go ahead and step it up. I started with a 1/4-inch pilot. I jumped up to a 3/8, and then now I'm gonna go to the 5/8 bit, which I think is pretty shot, which stinks. I don't have a good selection of drill bits, so let's see how this thing works. Something like that. I can't weld the brackets on yet because I still have to weld the pin, and I want to modify the pin so that way when it's in the position that it needs to be, the pin doesn't rotate back and forth like this and it stays stationary, because I don't want the pin to roll around in the location. So the way I'm going to solve that problem is with this back mount. You can see that I filed kind of like a little keyway into it, a little radius keyway. I'm going to take a weld bead and then weld a bead down the rod, clean it up with the grinder so that way it's more like a keyway, radius it. This way the keyway will slide in the one that I made, which in turn, once it's keyed, will keep it from rotating side to side. So that is the thought process and the goal in what I'm doing. You have to think about installing this because this is a one-time install. So the way that it's going to work out is you can see the collar that B&W put on. This is for the hitch. The spring goes on. I've already modified it so the spring, even all the spring I guess will flex around it, so that's not a problem. So before I weld in my hitch or the pin, I got to put on bracket number 1 that I made that has no key, and then bracket number 2 goes on, and then now I can weld my key in, weld the bar, clean everything up, and then install it. So let me go do some of that work now. Now it's just a matter of filing down the weld to match the keyway in the plate. And I'm just going to continue working it around until I get this to fit on that. I think a hand file is probably one of those tools that's so underrated in a shop. Definitely do amazing things with the hand files. I haven't used them in a while, but I'm starting to find more and more uses for them. And definitely a valuable tool that might not get used a lot, but definitely, depending on what you're doing, they have a place in the toolbox. So it took a little while to get it filed down and fitting correctly. The way she moves back and forth, I think once we get everything locked into position, We'll give it a test run to see. We'll put a couple tacks on either side, so this way here, if I have to change something, I can cut them off pretty easily. I also went ahead and put center lines in the brackets that I put in. So I'm gonna go get my welding helmet, and we'll put a couple tacks on this and actually finally see if this is gonna work the way that I hope it is going to. So after a little bit of finesse work with a hand file, it works as intended. I'm actually pretty pleased with the way it turned out. The spring mechanism works pretty good. And I can pull it back far enough that I can lock it into position and remove the hitch without having to hold anything or have to worry about, you know, holding this out and then pulling this out. I can pull it out, lock it, and do the hitch exchange if I need to. Like I said in the part 1 of this video, unfortunately the turnover ball, I don't have the space to store it in the hitch, so I'll have to make a holder for the hitch ball, which isn't really a big issue. Oh, there it goes. And it can lock itself too, I guess. The handle stays exactly where I need it to. And it moves relatively easy with very little effort. So I would call that a successful installation. Give it 2 thumbs up. So with that, that completes the installation of the Gooseneck trailer hitch for the pickup truck. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. There are a few minor things that I still have to take care of with the hitch. I need to do a couple block off plates for the square tubing in the rear. And then once I pull out the rear end, I need to get up under the truck and finish welding the underneath of the framework. But I'm going to use that as filler work as I continue to go through the process of building the bed. I'm also going to probably wait till I actually take the bed off to do that. So a few minor things. But as far as the installation on the B&W hitch, I was very pleased with the quality and the way it all went together. It'll be interesting to see how this truck handles a trailer and some weight eventually down the road. As always, if you want to support Challenge to Build any more than just watching on YouTube, you can go in the description below and click the link that says Support Challenge to Build. That link will take you directly over to my eBay store. Anything that is purchased there will directly support this build and the future of the channel. So any purchases made, I surely thank you for that. In the upcoming episode for the build, I think we're going to come back to the hydraulics. I actually did get the hydraulic rams for the bed, so we have to go back to finishing the hinges, work on the pivot points, and actually see if we can get this thing to tip up manually. I do not have the pump yet. That is still in the works, but we can at least lift up and make sure it all works. So that is going to be the upcoming episode within the next week and probably a couple weeks moving forward. I want to say thank you for watching today. My name is Paul Michael. This is Challenge to Build. Now I want you to get up and go out and challenge your build. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.